Greetings everyone and welcome to Southern New Hampshire University CJ 104 Ethical Leadership. We're going to be talking today about Assignment 2-2, which is Milestone number 1. The key to this, for those of you that have not used this 3 milestone final project method in another class, or perhaps it is your first class here at Southern New Hampshire, let me go through how this works. And that is, your final project is made up of 3 short papers. Okay, this week's written assignment is Milestone 1 of your short paper. It will be the first part of your final project that you'll write in week 7. You should be able to cut and paste this paper directly into your final project. So when you look at that final project guideline and rubric, don't get all shook up and go, oh my gosh, what's happening? You're doing 3/4 of it before you get to week 7. Okay, so everything you do in this paper is based on the guidelines and rubrics for the final project. The CJ 104 guidelines and rubric, you can find it by going to the Learning module on the home page. Click on Module 2, then click on Assignment and Guidelines. Assignment Guidelines and Rubric, it is the last item. All of the assignment guidelines and rubrics are visible, but you want to go to Milestone 1 Guidelines and Rubrics. Okay? Review the prompt and materials provided in the final project guidelines. If you haven't had a chance to do that, you really must, or you'll just continue to fall further behind. If you haven't had a chance to watch last week's mini lecture on YouTube, where I walk you through the final project, you really need to do that, because this is a scaffolding or a building block process, and without those foundations or base scaffoldings, you're going to slip and fall. Okay, the assignment is a short paper, and you're going to be asked to describe the different unethical behaviors present throughout the case study. So if you haven't looked at the case study and read it, which is in that final project, you're going to struggle with coming up with the correct responses here. Assess the significance of the unethical behaviors of these criminal justice professionals, connecting them to the ethical responsibilities of each individual in the decision-making process. So you're going to look at what did they do unethically, or what were their behaviors or unethical behaviors. Then you have to connect those unethical behaviors to what were the ethical responsibilities of each individual in the entire decision-making process. Remember, this is a class on ethical leadership, not merely line-level ethics. Okay, what were the different ethical responsibilities of the parties involved, and how did their actions neglect or uphold those responsibilities? So you have the line-level officers, the score officers. You have them as peers and you have them as offenders. Then you have first-line supervision, the sergeant that was in that detail. Then there's a second level, a mid-manager, probably a commander, a lieutenant, whatever it's called. Then there's some type of a division commander above that. Then there becomes the executive team, and perhaps a deputy chief, and then the chief of police. All of those persons are supervisors of this score unit. So each of them have an ethical responsibility, and that's why you need to look at the big picture of this thing. What you have to do is also locate at least 2 additional resources to aid in your final project, and list these resources at the end of your paper, sharing how you anticipate using these resources to inform your final project. Include citations in APA format. Must be in APA format. The library and scholarly research, you're going to need to do scholarly university level research. I recommend using the Shapiro library. I also recommend against using Google, Yahoo, Chrome, any of those. Okay, you need to learn to use the library, the Shapiro library. I have another YouTube mini lecture that walks you through how to research this particular class using the online Shapiro library. Once you do it, it's much easier than using Google. Okay, you need to find scholarly sources, and these are defined in the first critical element. Google Scholar can be effective, however, make sure that the sources, articles that are identified, are considered scholarly and peer-reviewed. That means academic journals. Blogs, no. Political parties, no. Frankly, most newspaper articles, although it depends how you use them, you just have to to get into the meat of doing scholarly research. The library research, watch the video. There's one called CJ 104 Shapiro Library and another called 104 APA format, where I'll walk you through how to do your citations. Okay, there are, these are, I should say, the critical elements in the rubric. You have to have a description of the unethical behaviors. You need to have the significance of those unethical behaviors. Those are two separate parts of the paper. They're going to be at least probably a couple paragraphs apiece. Then you're going to have an identification of additional resources, and those are the sources we just talked about. And then finally, you'll be graded on the articulation of response, punctuation, your citations, those kinds of things. Okay, so those are your critical elements that are in the rubric. You really have to mess around with the guidelines and the rubrics, because that's where you'll get the meat of what this assignment is and what it's all about. Okay, keep those cards and letters coming. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you.